Actually, even the Quran never say the word Jesus. It is Isa.
Everybody, welcome back. I have with me again Jay Smith, who's a well-known YouTuber, a Christian, a polemicist of Islam and a Christian apologist. He's a writer, he's an expert on the Quran. His list of accolades, we could be here all night really. So I'm just going to jump in with a question that I've been asked and I wanted a second opinion on. And my question to you, Jay, is courtesy of somebody who made a comment. And basically their position is, their claim is that, as we discussed earlier, Allah and Yahweh, Arabic name for God being Allah, or the term God, he claims that the name Isa is used in Arabic Bibles to refer to Jesus, Yeshua. So I just wondered, what's your take on that, and is that true?
And the answer is certainly that is the name that many Arabs use today, Isa, because that is the known name. Like the earlier argument we had with Allah, it has now become the predominant name. However, it is not the right name in Arabic. That is not the Arabic name for Jesus. Most Muslims don't know this, and that's why Muslims who are listening, you need to look at and see what the correct name for Jesus is in Arabic. And the correct name in Arabic is Yeshua. Very similar to Yeshua in Hebrew. They're both Semitic languages. They would use the same roots. And when you ask where does Yeshua, how can we support that? We know that the earliest Arabic Bibles, before Islam really predominated and took over the language and imposed its own names onto the language, in the 8th up to the 9th century. So we're talking about 800s. In 868, a new document was found in St. Catherine's Monastery in the Sinai Peninsula, the same place that the Sinaiticus was found. Also another Codex Sinaiticus 151, it's termed. The Codex Sinaiticus 151, and there it is the earliest we know of any translation of the Bible into Arabic. Now that's the late 9th century. And the name for Jesus in the Codex Sinaiticus 151 is Yeshua. Remember,
As you would expect.
As you would expect, but here, no, this is the irony. The Quran, according to every Muslim, was created in the 7th century. We know it was probably created in the 8th century. So this is the 9th century, the late 9th century, a Bible in Arabic that uses Yeshua for Jesus, proving that the early Christian Arabs always knew Jesus as Yeshua. And it is
That's why you
Islam,
expect it.
exactly what I expected. It is Islam that took Isa and introduced Isa into the Quran. That's the first time we see Isa. We can't find Isa anywhere prior to the Quran, which suggests to me that they have taken the Syriac name for Jesus, Iesu, from which all these stories of Jesus have been taken. They've not only borrowed the stories, they borrowed the name and put it into Arabic, because Iesu then becomes Isa in Arabic. That then, by virtue of controlling all those lands and those areas, they then imposed Isa onto all the language, so that even now today, in the 21st century, Arabs now use the word Isa, which is unfortunate. They need to go back to Yeshua. And so do Muslims go back to Yeshua.
Do you suppose that a potential explanation for this mistranslation of his name is because Muhammad was primarily listening to things? He's known in the Quran or the Hadith as being a big listener. Do you suppose that he heard the name and mistranscribed it or misheard it? Or, like, do you see my point? Like, if he's just hearing...
Absolutely. You got it, Kay. You got it. That's exactly what happened. I don't believe it was Muhammad, by the way. I believe it was much later.
Yeah, sorry, when I say
whoever
Muhammad,
wrote the Quran, whoever wrote those stories, remember, once Abdul Malik introduces the Prophet himself, Muhammad, on the coins and on the Dome of the Rock and on the Caliphal protocols, he then has to have a book. Every prophet has to have a book. That's why they had to borrow quickly. And they borrowed from life, left, and center. And who did they borrow from? They borrowed all the Old Testament stories from the Jewish apocryphal accounts, the Talmud and the Mishnahs. Then they went to the Christians and borrowed all the Christian stories from Christian heretical sources. And almost every one of those Christian heretical sources were Gnostic sources who were writing in Syriac, and they borrowed these stories. That's why if you look at the stories of Jesus in the Quran, they are not stories you and I recognize. I don't recall Jesus speaking from the cradle. I don't know anywhere where Jesus made some clay, blew on them, and they flew up into the air. I don't know. That's nowhere in our Bible. It's all in these Gnostic accounts. It's all in these Syriac Gnostic accounts, and in those accounts, the name for Jesus is Yesu, which then put into Arabic becomes Isa. So it comes out of borrowed material. It's a borrowed name. It's the wrong name. We do not look at the Syriac accounts as authoritative. They are nothing more than bedtime stories, just like the Hebrew, or you might say the Jewish Talmudic accounts, are nothing more than bedtime stories. Shame on those who put the Quran together, but then they had no other choice. Because remember, the Bible, both the Old and New Testament, had not been translated into Arabic until the late 9th century. The Sinaiticus 151 was the first one that translated into Arabic, and that's why they didn't have access to the authoritative word. They didn't have access to the Bible. If they had come back to the Bible in whatever language and read it, they would have got the right name, they would have got the right person, and they would have got the right God. And I think that's why God in his wisdom purposely wanted it to be a fraud. He wanted to make sure his name was a fraud. He wanted to make sure the name of God, the name for God, was a fraud, so that anybody looking at these two books would know which is the real one and which is the fraud. This is the real, this is the fraud. They've got the wrong God in this book. We've got the right name for God. Allah in this book, Yahweh in this book. They got the wrong name for Jesus. Here they call it Isa. We call it Yeshua. Get the right name, you get the right God. Get the right God, you get the right message. Get the right message, you can come on home.
Thank you very much. I was just thinking, as you were saying that, it's almost as if they were working to a literary deadline, but they didn't have the source material they needed, and it's such a shame.
I would suggest also that this shows to me that God in his wisdom knew what he was doing, because it was obvious people like Abdul Malik and those who wanted to create this Arab identity, who wanted to attack Christianity in all its form, because the Byzantine Empire was Christian. It was a political problem. It was also a theological problem. He needed something that would shut that down, and that's why he confronted Jesus Christ. That's why if you look at all the inscriptions on the Dome of the Rock, the earliest Quranic inscriptions we can find anywhere, they're attacking Jesus' divinity, they're attacking the Trinity, and they're attacking God as Father, and they're attacking Jesus as Son. Those are the four areas. From the very beginning, they have been attacking everything we know about our Lord Jesus Christ. If that was the case, I'm glad they've got the wrong God, and I'm glad they've got the wrong Jesus.
There's no other God. There is no other God. He knows of no other one, and he's all-knowing. So, amen to that.
Great question. Thank you so much.
All right, thanks very much, Jay.
Actually, even the Quran never said the word Jesus. It is Isa. We have no idea who's Isa. Take your Isa and go with him to where Muhammad goes. Christ is Lord, and Islam is false. I mean.